Most people don't waste their lives on purpose. They simply let others quietly control their choices, emotions, and priorities. Life is short, but manipulation is long. The real question isn't how much time you have, it's who is spending it for you. People rarely notice when their time is being stolen because it almost never happens through force. It happens quietly, through small emotional hooks, subtle guilt, and the social pressure to be agreeable. Most of the time, you don't lose your life in big dramatic moments. You lose it in 5-minute favors, constant interruptions, and emotional obligations that stretch far longer than they should. As a psychologist, I've seen how often people exhaust themselves trying to meet expectations they never agreed to, simply because they fear disappointing others. Time theft begins there, in the fear of being seen as selfish, unkind, or unhelpful. And because these fears feel so personal, people rarely question whether they are reasonable. Manipulative individuals often understand this fear better than you do. They know that if they pull the right emotional string, guilt, pity, pressure, or even flattery, you will hand over your attention without resistance. They don't need to shout or demand. All they have to do is say things like, "You're the only one I can rely on," or "I thought you cared," or "It'll be quick." These phrases are tools, and the people using them may not even realize they're manipulating you. Some do it intentionally, some do it habitually, and some do it unconsciously because it works. The effect is the same. Your time becomes theirs. The most dangerous part is that it happens in ways that feel normal. You get used to giving away your energy, your evenings, your emotional bandwidth. You become the friend who always listens, the coworker who always picks up the slack, the family member who never says no. At first, it looks like kindness. Later, it becomes expectation. Eventually, it becomes identity. And by then, reclaiming your time feels like a betrayal instead of a boundary. If you pay attention, you'll notice patterns. Certain people show up only when they need something. Certain conversations drain you more than they enrich you. Certain environments leave you mentally tired even if nothing bad happened. These are early signs of psychological time theft. Your body often knows before your mind does. You feel a tightening in your chest when a certain name pops on your phone. You feel obligated instead of willing. You say yes faster than you want to because the discomfort of saying no feels too heavy. These reactions are not random. They're symptoms of a pattern that has been shaping your behavior for years. The truth is that your time is the most valuable thing you own, and people sense that value. The more emotionally giving you are, the more likely you are to attract those who take without balance. This doesn't mean you need to harden yourself or become cold. It means you must learn to differentiate between healthy giving and life-draining giving. Healthy giving comes from choice. Draining giving comes from pressure. One expands you, the other empties you. Reclaiming your time begins with awareness. You have to notice who interrupts your peace, who consistently expects more than they give, who responds with anger or guilt when you set even the smallest boundary. These reactions tell you everything about the role you play in someone else's world. If your no ruins their day, that person has been relying on your compliance more than your connection. If your limits upset someone, it means they were benefiting from your lack of them. You don't need to confront everyone or cut people off dramatically. Most of the time, quiet adjustments are enough. You answer slower. You prioritize yourself without apology. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to rescue those who enjoy their chaos more than your help. You begin to treat your time as something precious, not something you owe to anyone who asks for it. What happens next is powerful. You start to see who respects you and who only respects what you give them. People who value you will adapt. People who used you will resist. And once you see that difference clearly, it becomes impossible to ignore again. You finally understand that your life doesn't get stolen all at once. It gets taken in small pieces. but those pieces can be reclaimed the same way, one boundary at a time. Distraction has always existed, but never in history has it been engineered with such precision, intensity, and psychological accuracy as it is today. What steals your time now isn't just noise or inconvenience. It's a system designed to hijack the most vulnerable parts of your mind. People think they choose what to pay attention to. In reality, most of the time, their attention is being guided, nudged, and manipulated long before they're aware of it. This is the modern form of mind control, not through force, but through overwhelm. Not through threats, but through stimulation. You rarely notice because it feels natural, even enjoyable, and that's what makes it powerful. Every beep, notification, vibration, and pop-up is crafted based on psychological research about what your brain can't ignore. The human mind is wired to respond instantly to novelty, danger, and reward. Technology uses all three. A small red dot feels urgent, even when it's not. A message bubble triggers social curiosity. Infinite scrolling keeps you trapped in a loop that feels like choice, but is actually a behavioral pattern created by dopamine spikes. You don't scroll because you want more information. You scroll because your brain feels uncomfortable stopping. That discomfort is deliberately designed. People imagine distraction as weakness, but it's not. It is the predictable response of a brain that evolved in an environment completely different from the one you live in now. Your brain wasn't built for constant stimulation. It was built for survival, awareness, and selective focus. When something lights up your reward system, you don't calmly evaluate it. You react. And the more you react, the more you reinforce neural pathways that make distraction your default state. This is why people feel constantly overwhelmed, yet strangely unable to stop consuming meaningless content. The cycle is psychological. Stimulation, reward, guilt, escape, more stimulation. Manipulators, whether individuals, corporations, or social systems, understand this cycle very well, but distraction isn't just digital. People also distract you emotionally. They use drama, guilt, crisis, or constant chaos to keep your attention glued to them. Some do it consciously, others don't even realize they're doing it. But the effect is the same. You spend your energy reacting instead of choosing. Emotional distraction is especially dangerous because it disguises itself as responsibility. You feel obligated to fix someone's problem, soothe their emotions, or respond to their crisis, even when it's not your job. When someone repeatedly creates chaos around you, they are effectively controlling your life. You end up living in reaction mode, constantly putting out fires that were never yours to begin with. Then there's social distraction. The expectations placed on you to fit into norms that don't serve you. You might feel pressured to impress people you don't even like, to chase goals you never chose, or to maintain a persona you don't actually enjoy. When society rewards conformity more than authenticity, many people spend their lives performing instead of living. And performance drains more energy than anything else. The worst part is that distraction slowly reshapes your identity. You start to lose clarity about what you want because your mind is too busy responding to what the world wants from you. Your attention becomes scattered, your goals feel blurry, and your emotional energy drains faster than you can replenish it. You feel tired, but you don't know why. You feel busy, yet unaccomplished. This happens when your mind is pulled in 20 different directions, none of which are chosen by you. But you can take your focus back. The first step is understanding that attention is a resource, and any resource needs protection. You must learn to recognize what triggers your distractions, digital, emotional, or social. You must learn to pause before reacting. A pause is small, but psychologically, it is everything. It gives you control where distraction wants you impulsive. The moment you become aware of the mechanism, the spell breaks a little. Limiting your exposure to manipulative environments isn't weakness, it's discipline. Turning off notifications isn't antisocial, it's reclaiming your mental space. Saying, I can't talk right now, or that isn't my responsibility, isn't cold, it's healthy. You don't need to withdraw from the world. You just need to stop giving every piece of the world unrestricted access to your mind. Once you begin controlling your focus, you feel something powerful return, clarity. You remember your own thoughts. You feel your own goals again. You become less reactive, more intentional. And that's when you realize the truth. Distraction wasn't just wasting your time, it was shaping your life. But a life shaped by distraction is not a life lived. When you reclaim your focus, you reclaim yourself. Meaning is not something you stumble into. It is something your mind is constantly trying to create, even when you don't notice it. Every choice you make, every emotion you feel, every disappointment you experience is connected to a deep psychological need for your life to feel coherent and valuable. People think they're chasing happiness, but happiness is temporary. What you're truly chasing is a sense of direction, a feeling that your time matters. When your actions align with your inner values, even difficulty feels meaningful. When they don't, even comfort feels empty. This is why people can achieve impressive goals and still feel lost, or live a simple life and feel deeply fulfilled. Meaning is not about magnitude, it's about alignment. Most people inherit their definition of a good life from society long before they're mature enough to question it. You grow up absorbing expectations. What success looks like, what happiness should be, what goals are normal. These expectations seep into your mind quietly, shaping your decisions without your permission. You might choose a career because it sounds respectable, not because it resonates with you. You might chase relationships to avoid loneliness, not because they enrich your spirit. You might set goals just because everyone else seems to value them. And the danger is that you can spend years pursuing a life that looks meaningful on the outside while feeling hollow on the inside. As a psychologist, I've seen people break down not because they failed at life, but because they succeeded in living a life that wasn't actually theirs. The pain of misalignment is subtle but constant. It shows up as restlessness, boredom, envy, or the strange feeling that you're busy but not moving. It shows up as emotional numbness, where nothing feels truly exciting or deeply satisfying. This internal disconnection is often mistaken for laziness or lack of discipline. But the real issue is that your mind refuses to pour energy into a path that doesn't feel meaningful. The human psyche resists living someone else's script to understand meaning. You have to know what your values actually are, not what you've been taught to value, but what genuinely activates you. Values aren't just ideals, they're emotional drivers. They show up in what you're drawn to, what irritates you, what energizes you, and what drains you. Some people value freedom more than security. Others value growth more than comfort. Some value creativity more than stability. When your daily life moves in the direction of your core values, you feel alive. When it moves away from them, you feel trapped, even if everything looks fine on paper. Meaning also comes from ownership. When you choose your path consciously, even if it's difficult, you feel empowered. When you let others choose for you, even if it's easy, you feel powerless. Human beings need to feel like active participants in their own story. That doesn't mean controlling everything. It means understanding why you're doing what you're doing. When you have a strong why, obstacles feel manageable. Without a why, even small tasks feel heavy. Your mind needs a narrative, a reason that connects your effort to something bigger than the moment. But meaning isn't only individual, it's relational. Humans are wired for connection, and the quality of your relationships matters more than the quantity. Deep, authentic relationships, those where you feel seen and accepted, create a sense of psychological grounding. Superficial relationships leave you emotionally hungry no matter how many people you know. People often fill their lives with noise, company, and social activity to avoid the loneliness that comes from being unknown. Real meaning begins when you stop performing and allow yourself to be honest. Even with a small circle, there's another part of meaning that many people avoid: responsibility. Meaning often requires effort, consistency, and the courage to make choices others may not understand. A meaningful life is rarely the easiest one, but the effort itself becomes energizing because it is connected to something that matters to you. When your effort feeds your values, you don't burn out, you build strength. Burnout happens when you give your energy to things that don't reflect who you are. Fulfillment happens when your energy supports your identity. The simplest way to find meaning is to pay attention to what makes you feel alive in quiet moments. Not excitement, not distraction, not temporary pleasure, aliveness. It might be creating something, learning something, helping someone, building something, or understanding something deeply. Meaning reveals itself in subtle emotional reactions long before the mind turns them into conscious thoughts. Life is short, but meaning stretches time. The more aligned you are, the less you feel like life is slipping away. When you live in alignment, time feels fuller, deeper, and more intentional. Meaning doesn't require perfection, it requires honesty. And once you recognize what your mind is truly seeking, you stop wasting your life chasing what was never yours to chase. Self-mastery doesn't begin with controlling the world around you. It begins with learning how to control the world inside you. Most people think they are making choices freely, but in reality, many of their decisions are shaped by emotional triggers, hidden fears, unresolved wounds, and subconscious beliefs they've never examined. When you don't know what directs your behavior, you end up living on autopilot, repeating patterns you don't want but don't know how to break. A short life becomes even shorter when you spend it reacting instead of choosing. Self-mastery is the shift from being driven by your impulses to being guided by your intentions. Point one of the first steps in spending your life wisely is understanding your psychological weak points, your emotional vulnerabilities that manipulators, environments, or habits can easily exploit. Everyone has triggers, and most of them come from past experiences: abandonment, rejection, humiliation, failure, or a deep desire to feel valued. When someone pushes the right emotional button, you might act in ways that don't match who you want to be. You might overgive, over-explain, overpromise, or over-apologize. These reactions aren't faults, they're clues. They reveal where your healing needs to happen. Rather than judging yourself for your patterns, you learn from them. Self-mastery is not perfection, it is awareness. Another part of self-mastery is learning the psychological power of the word no. People often underestimate how much of their life is lost simply because they're afraid to disappoint someone. Saying no is not about rejecting others, it's about choosing yourself. It's a declaration that your time, your energy, and your emotional health are not open for unlimited access. Manipulative people test your boundaries not because they don't hear you, but because they hope you don't mean what you say. When you maintain your boundaries calmly and consistently, you teach others how to treat you. More importantly, you teach yourself that your well-being is worth protecting. But self-mastery is not only about eliminating what drains you. It's also about shaping what strengthens you. Your life becomes meaningful when you intentionally create routines, habits, and environments that support who you want to become. Small daily disciplines, reading, reflecting, moving your body, working on something meaningful, shape your identity more than big, dramatic resolutions. The brain loves repetition. Every time you choose something aligned with your values, you reinforce a stronger version of yourself. This is how identity shifts, not through one big moment, but through hundreds of small decisions. Spend your life wisely. You also need the discipline of subtraction. People often try to improve their life by adding more goals, more plans, more commitments. But psychological clarity often comes from removing what no longer fits. Removing relationships that drain you. Removing expectations that were never yours. Removing habits that numb instead of nourish. Removing responsibilities you accepted only out of guilt. Subtraction feels uncomfortable at first because it creates space, and space forces you to face yourself. But that space is what allows growth to happen. You cannot build a fulfilling life on a foundation buried under noise. A powerful part of self-mastery is also emotional regulation, the ability to feel without being overwhelmed and to respond instead of react. When you learn to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, your life changes. Impulsiveness fades. Clarity increases. Decisions become cleaner. You stop rushing toward temporary relief and start choosing long-term alignment. Emotionally regulated people are harder to manipulate, harder to control, and harder to distract. This inner strength quietly rebuilds your life from the inside out. As you grow in self-mastery, you begin to understand something profound. Peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of boundaries, clarity, and self-respect. Life will always be short, and time will always move fast. But when you live intentionally, you feel each moment more deeply. You stop running on survival mode and start designing your life with purpose. You begin choosing relationships that enrich you, habits that empower you, and goals that reflect who you truly are, not who you were taught to be. The ultimate truth is this: if you don't consciously build your life, someone else will build it for you. If you don't decide what matters, the world will decide for you. And if you don't protect your time, your mind, and your values, they will be used in ways that leave you empty. Self-mastery is how you take your life back, not by becoming someone else, but by finally becoming yourself. In the end, life will always feel short, but that's exactly what makes it valuable. You don't need to control everything, fix everyone, or chase every opportunity. You only need to choose what truly matters and protect it with the same energy you once gave away freely. When you stop letting distractions, obligations, and manipulative influences decide your path, you finally create space for a life that feels like yours. The solution isn't dramatic. It's simple and powerful. Slow down, listen to your inner voice, set boundaries without apology, and take one intentional step each day toward the person you want to become. You are not trapped by your past patterns. You are not limited by your mistakes. At any moment, you can redirect your life with a single decision. And when you do, something shifts. You feel your time again, your purpose again, yourself again. Life may be short, but a life lived wisely feels long, rich, and deeply meaningful. The next chapter of your life begins the moment you choose it.